Good night, everyone.
Voice Messages by JonathanNash. Dr. Pfeiffer had just walked through the door of his house. He was a creature of habit, so the first thing he did was go to his office and check his voice messages. He was considering getting a cell phone so he could be reached by his patients easier. He would have already gotten one if they weren't the size of a brick. As always, there was a little red light flashing on his answering machine. "Jacob," he said to himself. Sure enough, Jacob had called, just as Dr. Pfeiffer had thought. But there was also two others who had called. With one fat finger, he pressed the button to reply to his messages. As the tape rewound, the doctor took his shoes off and pulled a cigarette from the pack he kept in his drawer. If his wife knew he was smoking, she wouldn't be happy. She knew he had them in the desk drawer, but she didn't know that he smoked them as well. When he started buying smokes again, he told her it was for the patients who smoked. He said, "It makes them feel safe. It makes it easier for them to tell me their problems." Of course, that was true, to an extent. He bought them more so he could still smoke. While his wife thought he had quit, it worked well for his patients, because it did make them relax. And it helped him not to have to face withdrawals, which he knew was something he didn't want to do. The tape had stopped rewinding and started to play with a loud, annoying beep. "Dr. Pfeiffer?" the timid voice of Angel Vance said. "I'm having some trouble." "Of course you are, my dear," Pfeiffer thought. "You are a paranoid schizophrenic." "I have seen those people, you know, the ones I told you about. They've been watching me, and I need to talk to you about it. I keep trying to remind myself that they aren't real, but they look so real. Please call me when you get this. I hope they didn't bug my phone." Pfeiffer chuckled a little. He knew she was going to be fine. There are a few patients which he would have to call back if he didn't want them to either kill themselves or someone else. There was a high-pitched beep, and the next message started. "Doctor, I'm having those thoughts again." Jacob's voice came from the gray plastic box. His breathing was slow, but also wavy. It hitched every time he inhaled, causing him to have a sort of stutter to his breathing. Pfeiffer was looking at the strange painting he'd bought. It was a disturbing piece. It appeared to be more of a photograph than a painting, of a monster coming from an old stone tunnel. It was painted by an artist he hadn't heard of before buying the piece. But once he had, it made him curious to see what other works he had. They were hard to find. Most people would tell him to leave once he mentioned the name Pickman, but with unraveled diligence he found some more of the obscure artist's work. The piece he had was a humanoid creature with long spindly arms, which ended in claws. Each of the long nails was dripping blood, and there was blood around its gnarled mouth. That being said, there were a few, well many, which were more frightening than the one Pfeiffer had in his office. There were also a few which weren't really nearly as morbid, and a few which was the biggest surprise after finding all the other paintings, which seemed to be of normal people, albeit their faces seemed a little odd. The latter, Pfeiffer had concluded, was earlier works of a demented artist. When he had first seen that painting hanging in the antique store, he knew he wanted it, not for any other reason than his own personal amusement. However, upon bringing the horrid thing into his house, his wife needed a more suitable answer for his action. Thinking quickly, he said it was to help his patients. The beast in the tunnel represented their insanity. If he can have them comfort the monster that lurked in the darkness of that tunnel, it would be easier to confront the monster which resided in the annals of their mind. Now that Jacob was talking, his attention had moved from the monster that hung over the fireplace and back to the box of playing his patient's voice. "That picture you showed me, it fucked me up even more. I can't stop thinking about it all day, all night. For the past 3 full days, I need to talk to you, Doc. Please call me back once you get this. I'm thinking some awful things again, and this time I don't know if I can fight them back myself." Pfeiffer had crushed the butt of his smoke into the glass of the ashtray. He knew that Jacob was psychotic, a dangerous psychotic. The urgency in Jacob's voice made him pause the message and pour a tumbler of brandy. His mind went back to their last session. The session when he showed the painting to Jacob, forced him to look at it, was hiding in the shadows of that subterranean tunnel. Told him that was the same monster that was haunting his mind. Now Pfeiffer was wondering if that was such a good idea. Psychiatry isn't really an exact science. Pfeiffer knew that when he had started. The methods had been barbaric in the not-too-distant past. But now, with the advent of electroconvulsive therapy and the wonderful medication which has come out, The doctors of the mind can leave the ice baths forever. However, Pfeiffer had some progress with ice baths and would still like to use the means of therapy from time to time. Not only that, he had some wonderful results with insulin comas, and if it wasn't frowned upon now, he would still be using them. Needless to say, there are some very suspect ideas which have been used in the past, and there will be more to come. Pfeiffer was hoping to find a way to cure the mentally insane without the expensive medications. He pressed play on the box, and Jacob's voice had filled the room once more. "Doc, it's Jacob. I'm hearing voices. Well, maybe they aren't voices, but something. They're scratching at the walls, trying to get into my house. I went for a walk, and I saw them. They knew I saw them, but I didn't know if they knew I know. You see, they wear masks. They want to look like normal people, but they aren't. I think I might have to kill them. Please call me. I don't think I could take this much longer. They were watching me on my walk. I think they know. I will not let them kill me. And if they try, I'm going to take as many as I can with me. Before you ask, I have been taking my meds. They just don't seem to be working. I need some guidance. Should I start shooting?" The call ended with a louder click than before. He must have slammed the phone on the hook. Pfeiffer ran his hands through his beard and thought for a moment. "The meds don't seem to be working," he said to himself, and nodded while sucking on his upper lip. Another beep, another message. This time, however, it was a woman's voice. "Hello, Dr. Pfeiffer. Alexis here." Her voice was slow and monotonous. "It's been 2 weeks, and I still feel the same. The world is still the same drab place it's always been. I think I may need a stronger prescription. Okay, just wanted to let you know. Bye." Pfeiffer smiled a little. He always thought that if someone had depression, it was Alexis. She sounded so much like the donkey from Winnie the Pooh. He also laughed because he really thought the pills would work for her. He had a feeling they wouldn't do anything for Jacob, but Alexis shouldn't have any problem with the placebos. Another of his tests he was running on unsuspecting patients. This one at least had shown a lot of positive tests with others. Pfeiffer was curious how many people could really be cured with nothing more than a sugar pill, and how strong their ailments would have to be before they would no longer work. The next message, also the last, was once more Jacob. His breathing was labored and his speech was frantic. It was almost inaudible, and Pfeiffer had to play it twice to understand exactly what he had said. "Listen, I got one. He came to my house and knocked on the door. These things are so cunning. It was disguised as a little girl selling cookies. I've tied her up. I have to prove she's a monster. But the mask is on too tight. I have a knife and I'm about to peel away with the mask. I just want to let you know that I have one. I will call you back and let you know what I find. If you get this call me as soon as you can. I hope they haven't gotten to yet. You're the only one I can trust. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have learned these things were walking among us. Be safe, Doctor." Pfeiffer finished his drink and looked at the phone. Per policy, he had to report this to the police. That didn't seem like a good idea, though. If he did that, then Jacob would never trust him again. His mind was already made up well before the last message, though, and when the phone rang once more, as he stood up, he paused. He let the machine pick it up. It was Jacob. She, or should I say it, was a monster under the mask. Nothing more than a red monster waiting for me to let my guard down. Only then it would have stuck. I think they know now. So I'm gonna send as many back to hell before they kill me. Just wanted to let you know. These monsters are everywhere. You can tell by their eyes. Their eyes have little specks of silver in the black part. Look at everyone's eyes before you trust them. If they're wearing sunglasses, don't trust them. It is the only way to truly know if they're a monster or not. Good luck, Doctor. And God bless. Pfeiffer knew Jacob was going to kill many people tonight. He knew from the beginning he would kill people at one point or another. It was just a little sooner than he had planned. It didn't matter, though. Everything he had wanted Jacob to do, he had done. Now he just needed to play the last message and call the cops in a few hours. Maybe Jacob would still be on his killing spree at the time. But by then, he would have sent a lot of them to hell, as he put it. The doctor walked to his office door smiling. He thought it was ironic. He knew he was a little crazy, and the crazies never suspected it. He also felt so incredibly cunning, knowing now he could get the people who see him to do his dirty work. As he turned the doorknob, he felt like a god. Not a soul alive was as smart as him in that moment. He jumped a little to see his wife on the other side of the door. She hadn't been there before, and it was a little disconcerting. Maybe she had known he was smoking? If she didn't, she does now. He reeked of smoke and booze. She didn't seem to notice, or at least she didn't seem to care. "It's time for dinner, dear," she said. Their eyes met, and he saw the little silver specks in her pupils. Once he found that very sexy. Now it seemed sinister. A shiver ran up his back as he took a step back. "What's for dinner?" Pfeiffer asked. She didn't say anything, just smiled.